Federal government promises adequate security ahead of governorship and state assembly elections.
During the presidential election, we had some few challenges here and there. Those challenges will not allow them to repeat themselves.
On a congratulatory visit to the president, royal fathers canvass support for the Buhari administration.
I assure you, Your Excellency, of traditional rulers' continued and unflinching support in your laudable projects.
We know you cannot do it alone. Nigeria belongs to all of us. We all have to support you and take this country to another level.
Vice President Osinbajo drums support for APC candidates ahead of state polls.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we begin the countdown to the governorship and state assembly elections.
The second phase of the 2019 general elections is just 3 days away, and that is the governorship and the Houses of Assembly elections, holding this Saturday to be precise.
Of course, Kyria, now the governorship elections will hold in 29 states, while the state assembly polls will take place in all the states of the Federation. And only 7 states, that is to say Osun, Ekiti, Edo, Anambra, Kogi, Ondo, and Bayelsa, are exempt from the governorship polls due to the off-season of staggered elections and tenure of office of the governors in those states on account of judicial intervention.
You are right, Kingsley. And just to add to that, the FCT Area Council's election, which coincides with the 2019 general elections, will also take place this Saturday, March 9th. Recall that chairmen of FCT Area Councils usually hold office for 3 years, and the last Area Council election was conducted in 2016.
Absolutely right, Kieran. And there are lots of expectations for the various polls that we hold on Saturday, as the members of the public anticipate that INEC and other critical stakeholders will strive to close all gaps and improve on the performance in the conduct of the presidential and National Assembly elections, which took place nearly a fortnight ago.
Certainly. And we are talking about elections into the subnational governments and legislatures, and the thinking is that the concern about who will govern their states for the next 4 years should naturally inspire Nigerians to turn out en masse for the state elections, because politics, as they say, is local, so also is development.
Well, Kyrian, now after Saturday's elections, we should be in a position to make a comparison in terms of voter turnout, security of the ballot, and other indices in ascertaining the freeness, fairness, as well as credibility of the elections.
Of course, that's true. And this is another acid test for the security agencies to be on top of their game and nip any recourse to violence in the bud.
One question to ask is, how prepared is INEC for the state polls? And also, what is the level of readiness in the states in terms of having peace and security during the elections? And what, in particular, are the peculiarities of the states in terms of who becomes governor, or what are the factors being considered? In addition, how mobilized are the voters at this time, considering that they had low voter turnout in relative terms during the presidential and National Assembly elections? We shall, of course, discuss these and other issues as we begin the countdown to the governorship and state House of Assembly elections that will take place on Saturday, including, of course, the FCT Area Council elections. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and it's on that note that I'd like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest TV network, and we are broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios.
And I am Kyrian Umayo. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning. And as always, we shall bring you complimentary segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But we'll begin with the morning news, and Comfort Amodu is our guide. Hello, Comfort.
A very good morning to you, Kyrian and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria, and here is the morning news. Now, more stringent measures have been taken by the federal government towards ensuring that the forthcoming governorship and state assembly elections are not only conducted peacefully, but devoid of acts capable of undermining the electoral process. The acting Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Abubakar Adamu, announced this while briefing newsmen on the outcome of the high-level security meeting summoned by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja.
Those that will want to disrupt the process to rethink, because during the presidential election, we had some few challenges here and there. Those challenges will not allow them to repeat themselves. We expect in every state the conduct of the election to be respected. We expect that electoral materials must not be tampered with. We expect that the INEC officials will do their work without fear or favor and without being allowed to be compromised. The same thing, the security personnel.
The National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria is asking Nigerians to bury their differences and give maximum support and cooperation to the Buhari administration as it strives towards achieving peace, progress and prosperity for the country. This is when members of the council, led by Sultan of Sokoto and Oni of Ife, formally paid a congratulatory visit to the president following his re-election for a second term in office. The president welcomed the royal fathers and solicited their support in the fight against criminality.
We assure you, Your Excellency, of the traditional rulers' continued and unflinching support in your laudable projects, particularly your government's cardinal objectives of fighting corruption, containing insecurity, and generally sanitizing the governance machinery and entrenching discipline.
We want to even implore you again, the opposition, open your arms to them. Listen to their criticisms in a very constructive manner. We believe that you will reshaping a lot of things that are lacking behind in this country. We know you cannot do it alone. Nigeria belongs to all of us. We all have to support you and take this country to another level.
I thank you very much indeed. I'm very, very happy that you have decided to come and congratulate me for arriving at the next level. Really, there is no way any government at any level can survive without your support. We certainly need your cooperation on a day-to-day basis.
Meanwhile, the Oluwo of Iwo Land in Osun State, Oba Abdul Rashid Adewale Akombe, has commended the federal government for achieving so much in nation building within a very short period of time. The monarch, who spoke with the press after a courtesy visit to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in Abuja, observed that many Nigerians are not aware of the great amount of progress that the country has made under the Buhari administration.
Today, we've seen capable hands running the affairs of this nation. So I believe Nigeria is getting to a sanity situation in the Committee of Nations.
The governing All Progressives Congress is having a befitting national secretariat as a symbol of sacrifice, tenacity of purpose and patriotism by well-meaning Nigerians to democratically reclaim the country and salvage it for a sustainable future. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while hosting a victory dinner for members of the Presidential Campaign Council of the party.
Because people who trusted me, I wouldn't like to disappoint them. I kept on trying, and we have this an incredible country, we thank God. We have people, we have resources. We must organize ourselves to develop this for the future generations.
President Milo Zeman of Czech Republic has congratulated President Muhammadu Buhari on his re-election. In our congratulatory message, President Zeman wished the country President Muhammadu Buhari's success in his second term for the well-being and prosperity of the Nigerian people. The Czech president promised to work with President Muhammadu Buhari in the years ahead to further develop mutual cooperation to the benefit of both countries. Similarly, President Buhari also received congratulatory and goodwill messages from Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of UAE, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE's Armed Forces. Ahead of the March 9 governorship and House of Assembly elections, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is urging supporters of the All Progressives Congress in Akwa Ibom State not to relent in their efforts at ensuring victory for all candidates of the party. He made this known at a town hall meeting during a thank you visit to Akwa Ibom State.
We are deeply grateful for the votes that we got from Akwa Ibom State in the last presidential elections. I can assure you that all of our hopes and all of our aspirations will be met by the federal government of Nigeria.
The Buhari campaign organization is thanking Nigerians for re-electing the president and describing the contest as no victor, no vanquish. The Director General of the Buhari campaign organization, Rotimi Amechi, expressed the resolve of the president to run an inclusive government.
The cardinal point the president has continuously focused on is that he will fight corruption. Like you know, the president also focused on the need to not just rehabilitate the economy, to make the economy grow.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress Campaign Council says it is not seeking to stop Atiku Abubakar from going to court. In a statement signed by the spokesperson of the council, Festus Kiamu, the council disassociates itself from a letter purportedly written by one of many support groups of President Muhammadu Buhari, adding that the opinion of such group does not represent the official position of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. The council says it believes that Atiku Abubakar has a constitutional right to seek redress in court, and it does not seek in any way to curtail that right. Rather, it's anxious to meet Atiku Abubakar in court in order to show the world in a conclusive manner the free and fair nature of the comprehensive defeat of Atiku at the polls. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria will continue shortly with Kinsley and Kirian in a moment.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. But we'll now go over to Joy Ozo of our business desk for stories trending in the world of business.
Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, is optimistic that the next governor of the bank will carry on with the various intervention programs which have been in existence since 1978. Mr. Emefiele, in response to inquiries from the media in Abuja, also debunked rumors that he has been directed to proceed on retirement leave.
My tenure expires in June, and at least let's continue. The intervention programs of the Central Bank of Nigeria has been on since 1978, and it has moved from one governor to another governor, and I am very optimistic that even if another governor comes, no right-thinking person will abandon an initiative that is laudable and that is meant to create jobs and that is meant to be for the good of our country.
Meanwhile, in line with the commitment to deliver reforms aimed at improving the enabling environment for doing business in Nigeria through systematic interventions, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council has commenced the fourth 60-day National Action Plan on Ease of Doing Business. The National Action Plan is scheduled to run from the 1st of March to the 29th of April 2019. It aims to further reduce the challenges encountered by SMEs and businesses in identified areas of focus, such as starting a business, getting credit, paying taxes, among others. And in another development, the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has said that the federal government is willing to set up a National Savings Committee that will make recommendations to the government on the best way to mobilize savings that would lead to economic growth. Mrs. Ahmed stated this when she held a meeting with members of the Capital Market Master Plan Implementation Council, CAMIC, in Abuja on Tuesday. She said there is a need for Nigerians to imbibe the culture of savings so as to be able to participate actively in the capital market as a means of growing the economy. The minister reiterated the commitment of government on volatility of the capital market and its readiness to work with CAMIC to ensure that the market is stable. In other news, Nigeria Customs Service has attributed the delay in the approval of Form M and issuance of pre-arrival assessment reports to internal audit process. This became imperative to fast-track beneficiaries, which is made up of 20%, and it is aimed at fishing out the non-compliant ones. A statement by the Public Relations Officer of the service, Joseph Atta, reveals that the service has designed a template that will enable it to identify defaulting beneficiaries, while the compliant ones will continue to enjoy a fast-track facility. The statement further explains that the Comptroller General Ahmed Ali in 2018 approved the issuance of pre-arrival assessment reports and approval of Form M, which allows a maximum of 24 hours process time. With business news, I'm Joy Uzo.
Thank you, Joy, for the business package. Newspaper review is next for us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Let's welcome Bayo Atayebi, our newspaper reviewer. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kiri, and good morning.
Yeah.
Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Bayo, good to see you.
We have about 5
6 papers, actually, including one for the editorial. Yes, right. Kieran, that's, well, you have stories on politics and stories also on business. Let's begin with the New Telegraph newspaper. New Telegraph from top to bottom, above the nameplate of the New Telegraph. CBN bans sale of forex to textile importers. With 2 riders, Nigeria spends $4 billion yearly on cloth import. Emefiele, that's the CBN governor, retiring in June. The story has a jump on page 6. Below the nameplate, you have a window of headlines there. Let's take a couple of them. Service chiefs, we won't allow thuggery and ballot snatching on Saturday. And more reps join race for speaker and deputy speaker. That's page 12. Oil marketers for feed stations, factories, and 6 SUVs worth 771 million naira. That's page 7. Now, lead story says, APC to Nigerians, we won't give excuses again. With the rider, Obasanjo, I won't stop criticizing Buhari. He was speaking on the occasion of his birthday, by the way. That's on page 5. Now, Rotimi Amechi, who is DG of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, is quoted as saying, whether the PDP did well or not, we have another 4 years to prove them wrong by doing better. We cannot keep crying that they didn't do well. No excuses. Because the president has promised to run a government that will satisfy Nigerians. Now, the second lead story, which is right at the foot of the front page there, is Atiku and PDP seek tribunal's nod to inspect voters' register. Opposition protests at INEC headquarters alleges infraction in poll. Now, that's page 6. The health story there, mouthwash raises high blood pressure risk. Page 35. Kirian.
Mouthwash?
Mouthwash, yes.
All right, we'll get to know more about the analysis that because, you know, when you have such information, you need to dissect it and understand why it is so, because we have to do mouthwashing.
Yeah, you didn't say toothpaste. You said mouthwash. You know, the one you can use for gargling, you know. Yes.
All right. Okay, let's go to the leadership newspaper. Below the name plate of leadership newspaper is 75% of telecom devices imported to Nigeria toxic, says NCC, and that's the Nigerian Communications Commission. And the lead story this morning on leadership newspaper is a presidential poll. Atiku shuns entities, goods to cult. Is on page 4. With 4 riders, wants INEC to release election materials for inspection. APC denies mounting pressure on him to jettison tribunal. PMB, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, service chiefs meet over governorship assembly polls. And PDP protests at INEC headquarters. And below that we have a CBN places forex restriction on textile materials. And below the photograph on the leadership newspaper, there are some 3 stories there. Attempted suicide, court grants Melaye 5 million naira bails on page 16. Federal government begins 60-day action plan to ease of doing business is on page 31. Rep Suleiman Dalti Ladu, joint speaker, deputy speaker race is on page 6. IGP bans use of unmarked vehicles, covered number plates. It's on page 11. Let's bring in Bayo now for his analysis.
Yes, let's start with on the economic note. The governor of Central Bank now has declared that foreign exchange will not be available for textile importers. That is a bold move. Before now, Nigeria had about 187 textile factories across the country. Today, we hardly have 27, and many of them have folded up because importation of textile materials have gone a long way undermining the industry, and this will go a long way to reviving that industry in the country. And that industry is a mass employer of persons. The governor of Central Bank told textile industry stakeholders this situation yesterday. He also used the occasion to react to the fact that there is no truth in the alleged publication on the social media that he's proceeding on terminal leave. He said his tenure will expire in June 2019. The current CBN governor was appointed on 3rd of June 2014. He has a 5-year term and is subject to renewal. Mr. Godwin has accordingly dismissed all false claims on social media that he has to proceed on terminal leave. Now, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was 82 years yesterday. At the birthday ceremony, the Alaki of Ogbaland, Obade Dotun Gbadebo, described Obasanjo as a warrior, and he added, at 82, I think you should keep your sword more rather than use it. And Chief Obasanjo responded that his criticism of President Muhammadu Buhari is not personal, nor is it out of hatred, but it is in accordance with democratic principles and norms. He says that to ensure economic growth and development, this is the essence of the criticism. So, Kabiyesi, just as he is your boss, I am also his boss, with all due respect. I have been there longer than any Nigerian, so I know what I'm talking about. The Alaki served in the army, and it is said that he retired, he left the army on the same day with President Muhammadu Buhari. President Muhammadu Buhari, however, in a statement marking Chief Olusegun Obasanjo's 82nd birthday, described him as a passionate and great patriot. He says, regardless of our political differences, I still hold him in very high esteem. In a statement signed by Garba Shehu on behalf of the president, described Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as that he gave a good account of himself and he inspired us, junior officers, with his wit and other leadership skills. He wishes Chief Obasanjo more good health, knowledge, and wisdom in the service of Nigeria and humanity. Incidentally, many of our eminent traditional rulers are former uniform officers. The Sultan was in the army, the Esunupe was in the army, the Emir of Zuru was in the army, the Oba of Lagos was in the police. Do you know that the Bongomjos was also in the custom? Many of them were in the uniform services.
Of course, that's the story of Nigeria when it comes to leadership, you know. But essentially, you know, in the U.S., actually, you know, the first set of leaders in the U.S. were also retired generals from the starting point, right? Because after the war, you know, they came here, they democratized and then vied for high offices and got there. But they didn't last for so long, you know. After a while, pure civilians, you know, started emerging, you know, as presidents of the U.S.
Well, there are two issues that, you know, Bayo has been discussing. One is on the ban of official forex, if you like, for the importation of textiles. And then, of course, the other has to do with former President Obasanjo saying that he won't stop criticizing President Buhari. I think there's something very significant about the relationship that military officers have in or out of office. So whether it is political season or otherwise, you would be doing so at your own peril if you were to take sides.
Yes.
Because they haven't have a way of getting around and, you know, they quarrel and then
They have
quarrel.
a meeting point.
Yes, they have a meeting point. Even Ojukwu, you know, late Emeka Ojukwu and Obasanjo, you know, they will have their spat outside in public, and in private, it's the esprit de corps. Absolutely.
This and it excludes anybody else.
It excludes anybody else. They can say whatever they like.
Become bloody civilians.
Bloody civilians. If you get into their fight, that's your headache. Yeah. The other one has to do with the ban on the forex sales to importers, which is also the lead story for Daily Trust. And by the way, they have the other stories. Good move, but I hope it's not an isolated step. Because the previous administration, that's the Goodluck Jonathan administration, where they had Minister of MITI then, Olusegun Aganga, they came up with what they call the CTG policy, the cotton, textile, and garment policy. Now, okay, you are banning the importation of textiles. Where are your raw materials to feed your mills?
Yes.
Cotton production in the first instance. Zamfara is one of the leading states in cotton production. Yes. What is the state of security in Zamfara today?
The whole of Northwest.
Where is the ginnery? Where is the ginnery? So where are you going to get your raw materials from to feed the textile industries?
And that's the major reason why sometime, perhaps about 2 years ago, many advocated for Nigeria to turn to GMO for the production of textile. Burkina Faso did that. And in Africa, Burkina Faso is still #1 in cotton production. And they're applying GMO.
Environmentalists have kicked against that. I mean, Nemo Bassi was one of the leading environmentalists.
Exactly.
They've kicked against it for its negative effects.
Well, these negative effects, I mean, they are my own way. Let's move further. Let's go for
has its consequences.
Exactly.
It has to be a balancing act.
It's just that, recall the story we read, I read here, 75% of telecom devices imported to Nigeria are toxic. It's if to every other scientific, yes, has its own shortcomings, All right, the Nigerian Pilot will be next. Let's go to the Nigerian Pilot newspaper. Below the nameplate of Nigerian Pilot newspaper, we have, I am still governor of Central Bank. That's Emefiele, the Central Bank governor. It's on page 34, because we on social media throughout 2 or 3 days ago, we've been stories trending there is that he has been sacked, by the president's administration. But that is not true. Now, PDP protesters storm INEC. It's on page 5. And then the lead story here, fireworks begin with 4 riders as Atiku finally files motion against Buhari, asks INEC to surrender election materials for inspection, applies for leave of tribunal to inspect vital documents, prays tribunal to allow his agents scan and photocopy documents. He's on page 8. And below the photograph on the Nigerian Pilot newspaper, recall that when the news was on, the royal fathers we were told that royal fathers met to congratulate President Buhari. That is the photograph you have seen on the Nigerian Pilot, where they're exchanging pleasantries. But below that, we have why I can't stop attacking Buhari. That's Obasanjo says issues between them, not personal. It's on page 5. And at the bottom of the Nigerian Pilot, INEC confirms irregularities in Imo polls. Court begins hearing against Buhari, Atiku, others. That's on polls financing. And that's on page 8. Inquiry into Chief Jokun crisis in Benue kicks off. Is on page 13. Popular Abuja pastor's marriage crashes over adultery. Is on page 6. Nigeria faces drug threat with 14.3 million users, says NAFDAC DG.
Yeah, all right. I already took some stories from the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story plus another one. I said, no going back on card readers for polls. That's according to INEC details on page 3. Bayo, any stories for you to take before I come to the editorial?
I just wanted to give an update regarding the People's Democratic Party making good its threat to challenge the March 23rd presidential election in court. It filed a motion ex parte at the Presidential Elections Petition Tribunal, and it is demanding a motion, 3 specific things. The PDP and its candidate seek a leave of the tribunal to inspect the voters' register, smart card reader machines, as well as ballot papers and all vital documents used for the election. the party alleges that collated results by its agents are at variance with those declared by INEC. Meanwhile, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Uche Secondos, led members of the executive in a protest to the Independent National Electoral Commission. At the commission, they were received by the legal commissioner, National Commissioner Legal, May Agbamoche Mbu, and he thanked the PDP for his civilized approach, pledging that the INEC is in all readiness to work to do a professional job. Meanwhile, the campaign council of the All Progressive Congress says it believes that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has a constitutional right to seek redress in court. Therefore, it does not support all those who are calling for the curtailing of that right. Director of the presidential campaign, Festus Keyamo, says the campaign council dissociates itself from overtures for the PDP candidate not to go to court. He declared, going to court is the only democratic way to ventilate grievances rather than resorting to anarchy.
Yeah, sorry. Before you go to the editorial, we have the Daily Sun. That's one striking story. In fact, the lead story on Daily Sun. No card readers, no results, says INEC. It says manual accreditation for Gubat State Assembly polls unacceptable.
Yes, and also another alarm for the elections on Saturday is the meeting held by the security chiefs with the president. And the Inspector General of Police briefed the media after the meeting, and specifically he said that security arrangements have been enhanced, stringent security measures are to be taken, thuggery, ballot snatching, and disruption of election will be dealt with ruthlessly. So nothing is left to be left idle as regards security for elections.
All right. Now, the editorial is the same vein, and it's from the Punch newspaper at page 20. It says need for better governorship and assembly polls. The editorial, among other things, says that if the performance of INEC has been disappointing, that of the security agencies has not been laudatory, and that learning from its past mistakes, missteps, and failures, INEC should make Saturday's elections more credible. The editorial adds that the neutrality of security agencies is paramount in guaranteeing free and credible elections, and that the right to vote freely for the candidate of one's choice is the essence in a democratic society.
Yes, the editorial is echoing the anxieties across the nation about the elections coming up on Saturday. Elections will be held in 29 states. This is because 7 other states have had their elections staggered. And then he said that the editorial is pointing out that in spite of maximum security provided on March 23rd election, regrettably, between 35 to 39 persons were killed. And he's also said that the police arrested about 323 who are to be prosecuted. And therefore, the editorial is hammering on the fact that INEC has to get its logistics, which was one of its cardinal challenges, right. It should also liaise with all its agents, particularly those supportive agents, for logistics as well as security, to ensure that they are prompt in delivering logistic materials and security are as neutral as possible. And it says that the military should only be a backup for the police. It emphasizes that the right to vote by every candidate is a choice and it's the essence of democracy. Therefore, there should be zero tolerance to thugs and miscreants. The electorate should think critically in choosing their candidate. Otherwise, they stand the risk of taking a big risk in losing the quality of life if they choose persons who are not of high quality as their representatives.
And in all of this, during the introductory aspect of this program, Kinsley raised the issue of the preparedness of INEC. You know, because Nigerians have been assured several times of this level of preparedness. Recall what happened just a few hours before the election scheduled for 16th of February, after having assured Nigerians of this preparedness. And it is very, very apt at this point in time because of the need for the materials, both sensitive and insensitive, or insensitive ones, to get to the destination point before the election begins. And that's the only way, you can be assured that, look, INEC is truly prepared. They now leave the security to do their own bit, you know, yes.
I think INEC erred on the side of caution. The challenge is with the politicians because of the sensitivity and fear of compromising election, logistic material were not dispatched too early, so that for fear of compromise. And that was why it became overwhelming. But now, we are now going to have elections not in the 36 states of the Federation. They are going to be in 29 states of the Federation. Therefore, they will have more men to work with less area. And therefore...
By-elections are taking place throughout the Federation.
Yes, I know.
State House of Assembly, even in FCT.
Yes.
So, everywhere, except for governorship, which is 29.
What I mean.
One point, very quickly, Bayo, we're signing you off now so that we can get into the main thrust of our conversation.
Yes.
You remember yesterday we talked about the rebuttal against the story of the CBN governor having been put on notice, to leave office in June, where we have also read the stories today. It's very critical at this stage because this is what the business and financial services community will be watching out for. Who becomes your next governor of the central bank, assuming the tenure of the incumbent is not being renewed? Who becomes your Minister of Finance? These are Emefiele was speaking a while ago, he was giving the reassurance that, the policies will be continued. That's fair. But the financial and business community will be looking out for that individual who will take over, or whether there will be continuity. And this is very useful, for the administration in taking the right decision.
It is.
All right. Kirian, Bayo, I'd like to thank you for being around. See you tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll begin our countdown to the governorship polls 3 days away with reports from our correspondents and, of course, analysts in studio. All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, our focus today in our conversation segment will be the forthcoming governorship, state houses of assembly, and FCT area council elections that are just 3 days away. And to set a tone for our discussion, let's join our correspondent Aisha Obale, who went to the streets to sample the expectations of Nigerians with regard to the polls.
I'm expecting free and fair election, especially in the next governorship and the House of Assembly exercise. So that's what I believe. This next election now, I believe INEC can do best and better for the people.
I expect the election to be very peaceful and orderly, as we witnessed in the presidential election. I believe that INEC has done well in the presidential election, and what I expect of them is that the areas that have defects, like voters waiting for the materials to be brought before they can vote. Sometimes they waited for a long time before the materials are brought for voting. So I think they should be able to take care of that.
Like in Maraba where I stay, up to 2 o'clock we were not able to vote. And at the end of the day, we discovered that after spending 4 to 5 hours in the polling unit, we were told that even the election was cancelled, which means our effort was in vain. So I just hope that this coming election we will not have that problem of card readers. This time around, they should not even concentrate on the card reader. They should look for an option so that even if the card reader is not there, people can still vote.
What are they called? They are called independent. They should work independently.
And joining us now in the studio to discuss the forthcoming governorship and state assembly elections, we have Dr. Ernest Ereke, a political scientist and lecturer in the Department of Political Science, University of Abuja. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And also here is in the studio is Cynthia Mbamalo, an election observer and director watching the vote, a civil society organization. It's also a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hopefully, we'll be having a guest in the Kaduna studio, David Akoji, will be joining us in the course of our conversation.
All right, Kieran, of course, David Akoje is of the National Orientation Agency. And today also we will have some of our correspondents join us from our network centers to discuss the state of the states ahead of the governorship and state House of Assembly in their areas of coverage. So we, from our Ibadan network studios, which is where we are beginning from, let's join our correspondent there, Femi Johnson. You can see him on the right side of your screen. Femi, good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning and also good morning to all Nigerians.
All right, so beginning with you, tell us, what is the state of the state? That's your state where you are in readiness for Saturday's elections. In terms of the level of preparation, from what you have observed with regard to INEC and what the numbers are, how many candidates are running for the governorship of the state?
Let me say, in your state, Independent National Electoral Commission is fully prepared for this election. They are also expected to address stakeholders tomorrow. But the INEC Commissioner, Resident Electoral Commissioner Mutiu Agboke, was in Ibarakpa also to talk to the stakeholders there. Interestingly, and this election is going to be a little bit different from what we have during the presidential election. In Oyo State, we have a total number of 2,176,356 who have collected their PVC. But if you look at the last election, we have 905,007 who are actually accredited, but only 891,000 voted for the exercise. But it's going to change in this election because they are fully prepared to make sure that they cast their vote, because they know that the governorship election, all of them seems to be having a stake in it, and they are talking about it. Also, too, for the governorship here in Oyo State, we have 42 political parties involved. But because of the high level of discussion, high level of political permutations, and equally to horse trading that has gone on in the last few days, I want to let you know that in Oyo State at the moment, there are alliances that are being accomplished. The All Progressives Congress, APC, has sealed an alliance with ADP, African Democratic Party. Any moment from now, between today and tomorrow, Accord Party may likely join in the alliance for APC. For PDP, they have an alliance already with ADC, Zenith Labour Party, and also Social Democratic Party. So it's going to be an interesting scenario here in Oyo State. What is equally making it more interesting, I must tell you, is the fact that in Oyo State, the governor of a particular party has never handed over to governor-elect from the same party. You understand what I'm trying to say? In essence, if a governor is from a party, that same party has never won an election to which the governor will now hand over to that same party. So they are looking forward to what is now going to happen, particularly with the stake that seems to be very high by the political parties and also by the eligible voters who said the voter apathy that was experienced in the last election will not likely come in Oyo State this time around because of everything that is involved in the forthcoming election. So for Oyo State, we're looking forward to an election that they have said they want it to be more freer, they want credible election, and equally too, they want the materials to get to the places on time. We have a situation whereby 42 governorship candidates are contesting this election, and in the House of Assembly, we have 659 candidates. The voting points, if you want to know, is 1,607, while the voting unit is 4,783. And we have about 351 wards that will be involved in Oyo State governorship and also House of Assembly election. So it is a situation whereby everybody, they are looking forward to it. The people of Oyo State are already anticipating what will happen in 3 days' time. And they have all prepared themselves to make sure that they do not only participate, they also wait to ensure that their vote counts. So that is just the scenario here in Oyo State at the moment. For the security too, let me also let you know that the State Commissioner of Police has gone round and is also expected to also address the media any moment from now, hopefully today or tomorrow, from what the Assistant Commissioner of Police Operations, Abimbola Ulugbenga, has told us. So we are expecting that the security will also be very tight. They will ensure that we won't witness a situation whereby there will be violence or ballot box snatching.
All right, Femi, thank you very much indeed. I was actually going to ask you about the security situation, but you have touched on that. Over 2 million voters collected their voters' cards, and they're going to be voting in over 1 million polling units. Wow, and you did mention the fact that, for people to be able to locate their polling units is very, very critical on that Saturday's election in Oyo State. Now, what is the mood of the electorate in Oyo? Are they gingered, to go all out? Since you have told us that there's not going to be voter apathy as we had in the last election.
It's an impression. The voting units is 4,783, while the voting point is 1,607. On the mood of the people here, if you go to so many places, even if you see them in offices, in newspaper stands, at everywhere, even in some places that you least expect that people will talk. For instance, when you go out to eat, maybe you are eating in a restaurant, you discover that what they are talking about is the governorship election. They are so much conscious of what is going to happen, and that is why they are making it a subject of discourse. Everybody is discussing about it. But the question on the lips of many is, who is actually going to be the next governor of Oyo State? Is it going to be a situation whereby the ruling party takes it for the first time and sets another record? Because in the history of Oyo State, APC is also setting another record, because the current governor of the state is actually having a second tenure of office, which has never happened in Oyo State before. So they are looking for another record that they will be setting. Or is it going to be a different scenario? But when you look at it, everybody seems to be going out, campaigning, and we know that hopefully by tomorrow they will have to make sure that they round up whatever they are talking to the people. But whatever it is that they have actually talked to the people in the last 1 year, let me put it that way, or let me say in the last 3 months that we have set the ball rolling on campaign, people know who they want to vote for. That is the most significant thing about Oyo State. And that is why Oyo State seems to be very different in terms of who they want to vote for. Everybody that will be participating in the election, there's 2,176,352 people that have actually collected their PVC are prepared, and they know who they want to vote for. So the issue of maybe you want to use money to buy them will not arise in Oyo State. They will make sure, and they have said that they will make sure that money issue does not come in. It is who they actually want to vote for that they will be voting for. And what I like about Oyo State is that everybody is going on peacefully about their campaign. Nobody is antagonizing each other in such a way that you will now be seeing hate speeches. It is not there at all. Everybody is presenting the scorecards the way they want to do it. For instance, I would say that most of the political parties are telling us their manifesto according to what they have seen so far in Oyo State, what they want to do, education, agriculture, sports too, and equally too in some other areas. And in terms of infrastructure, you will notice that the present administration has actually done a lot for the state. So what they are trying to say is that they've seen what has happened in the last 8 years of the tenure of Governor Abiola Ajimobi. They want to improve on it if they give them the mandate, while at the same time the APC is equally telling them that you've not seen it all. You've just seen a tip of the iceberg of what they intend to do. So for the mood, and equally too for them, they know what they want to do, and they are prepared to do it on Saturday. So you should expect a situation whereby there will be a large turnout of voters, particularly women. I'm even surprised that when they talk, you will be wondering that if women are saying this, then what will happen to the men? And also to the youths. They are aware of what is at stake in Oyo State. Oyo State is a pace setter, and they are prepared to set the pace. You will be surprised at what will happen on Saturday. Kiran.
All right. Femi Johnson, there are a number of issues to actually seek clarification on. One, knowing whom you want to vote for presumes that there are issues that are on the table with regard to why the voters would vote a particular way. What are the issues that are touching the voters the most and therefore likely to affect the way they might vote?
The first thing that seems to be touching voters the most in Oyo State is education. They want an improvement in everything that has happened. If it is the ruling party that will be coming in, they want the ruling party to improve on what they have done. If it is another party that will be coming in, they want the other party to see what has happened in the last 8 years of the present administration and to now find a way out to make sure that it is better. They equally want a situation in terms of their welfare, particularly the civil servants. They have experienced a lot in the last 8 years. Some of them are happy with the development, some are not. But what they are saying is that this time around, we know, we have seen the manifestos of all the candidates that are involved in the governorship election. Let's not forget that I've told you that there are alliances that are going on. But for now, what seems to be the major horse trade is the two major political parties that seems to be getting it in terms of who they want to do, what they want to do, and how they want to get it right. So for them, they know that education seems to be paramount. They equally want the welfare of civil servants to be taught, and they want an improvement on infrastructure. They want a situation whereby if they go to any particular area, the road is tarred, and they want a situation whereby those roads that at the moment have been tarred, they are maintained. Because when you look at the people of Oyo State, they are also involved in farming. So agriculture too is another aspect that they have equally been talking about. So if I want to categorize it, I will say that education, the welfare of civil servants, and also infrastructure as well as agriculture seems to be paramount in their minds. And they want a good relationship between the government and the governed.
All right, Femi, thank you. And from your explanation, there is this presumption, that Oyo State is a peaceful state, but there's always a first time. Perhaps nobody is wishing that. But what are the challenges noticed during the presidential election that you think should be addressed before Saturday?
The most major challenge that should be addressed, actually, which INEC has promised that they would definitely look into it, is late arrival of materials to some polling units, and equally to the distribution of these materials. They want a situation whereby, if you say that election is going to start at 8 o'clock, all the polling units, all the voting points, ad hoc officials of INEC, and all those who are involved in this election are at that place. Because when you look at the presidential and National Assembly election that just passed by some few days ago, you will discover that most of the eligible voters who wanted to participate and also exercise their franchise were at the polling unit as early as 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And they wanted to make sure that they do it on time, because since it is simultaneous exercise, that means you are accredited and you cast your ballot. They wanted to make sure that they do it on time. Some want to wait and see what is happening. So they want INEC to ensure that this is actually done. We didn't witness too much of violence in Oyo State. The only thing I would recall is that the Oyo State Police Command told us at the end of the exercise that they arrested about 38 suspected thugs, I would say, who actually wanted to cause problem or miscreants. But this time around, because of the fact that they know that Oyo State is significant in terms of who they want to put in as their next governor, the Oyo State Police Command has assured that they will do everything to make sure that things do not go the way that many people will feel it should go if there has to be violence. So they are trying to make sure that there won't be any violence at all, and if there will be, they will be able to curtail it. So for them in Oyo State, what we first observe is that INEC must be up to it. They must make sure these materials get there in time. And also in terms of the collation of the results. They want the results to come on time, because at the moment we discover that election is going to be reconducted in some area, particularly Ibarapa. They don't want such to happen in this election. They want a situation whereby this election is conducted on Saturday, there is no rerun at all, and everybody will wait, anticipate the result. When the result is announced, then everybody will go and accept it in good faith. In good faith means that they know that actually, when you talk about what has happened in the course of the election, before, during, and after, everybody is satisfied and the election is credible.
Well, Femi, just before we let you go, just clarify two things. So historically, I mean, Oyo hasn't witnessed a situation where an incumbent party hands over at the completion of the tenure to a member of of another member of the incumbent party. Well, we recall in 1983, during the era of the landslide and moonslide, when Dr. Olunloyo ousted Chief Bola Ige, of blessed memory, there were all kinds of concerns raised. So how do we explain that in the instant republic that a ruling party has not been able to hand over to one of its kind? That's one leg. Second leg of the question is a part of the big story that emerged from the National Assembly elections of February 23rd was the loss of the incumbent governor in seeking to get into the Senate. What were the issues at play?
Let me say that interestingly too, I schooled in Oyo State, primary, secondary, and university education in Oyo State. So I witnessed everything that happened in 1983. What I can tell you about the people of Oyo State is that they don't mince words in terms of what they want to do. And that is why their election is always following the same pattern. If they say they want to go for this person, and this is the reason why they want to go for this person, they are going for that person. They don't change their mind, and nobody can bend them. You can't use money to say you want to win them. That is why, like I told you earlier on, they have made up their mind on what they want to do. And so the issue of incumbent handing over to the same member of the party depends on what they have made up their mind to do. And you know, they won't tell you that this is what they have made up their mind to do. What they are saying is that on Saturday, they know who they want to vote for, and that is what will play. On the second issue that you have talked about, it is a scenario in Oyo State is that they watch everything that is happening. They watch who is governing them, and they want to see that what they want is actually what is coming into play. It is not that they do not like Ajimobi, the governor of Oyo State at the moment, that is Governor Ajimobi. But what happened is that they said they want more improvement in their representation. They want a situation whereby another person can come in and also play its part. So most of them, they are of the view that the incumbent governor was in the Senate before, and he had already spent also 8 years, he's almost spending 8 years as a governor. They want a change that will also reflect so many other things. They appreciated the governor in terms of some of the other things that he has done. When you talk about infrastructure, you can't beat Governor Ajimobi in Oyo State. Everybody knows that when you talk about road, there are so many roads that you will pass in Oyo State, and you ask a question. Let me give you an instance. I was in Iseyin about 2 months ago, and I marveled at what I saw there. And the first question I asked is, who did or who actually play a big role in the construction of this road in Iseyin? And they told me that it is not just about Iseyin. No. They didn't extend it to Shaki, it extended to Oyo, you know, just like that. So they appreciated so many things that the governor has done, but they wanted more representation. I will not say this is who and who that they are going to vote for in Oyo State, because they are not revealing the particular party that they are going for. But what they are saying is that they've made up their mind on who they want to vote for. They know who they want to cast their ballot for, and they will wait. They are just anticipating and eagerly waiting for Saturday. So sometimes when you look at all these things that have happened, that is why most of the political parties that are involved are now trying to form an alliance. Like I told you earlier on, PDP has already formed alliance with ADC, Zenith Labour Party, and equally to Social Democratic Party. While at the moment, APC, to the former governor of Oyo State, Otumba Alawa Akala, is already with APC, and equally to some other members of APC who left and went to ADC, but are now back in APC because of the Saturday's election. So it's going to be an interesting scenario. It's full of intrigues, no doubt. There are anxious moments. It's tense. But what is making the tense not to be a little bit high is the fact that everybody knows who he is going to vote for, or she is going to vote for, and they are prepared to make sure that they come out. That is why I've said that for them in Oyo State, the issue of voter apathy will not arise at all. Once INEC can do and play its part well, and the security officials too can do their job, and equally to all other stakeholders involved can play their part, you should expect something interesting from Oyo State. How interesting it will be, wait until Saturday.
All right, Femi, you have spoken so well as someone who had his education in Oyo State. You have a better understanding of the state. We thank you for that comprehensive analysis of political situation in Oyo State in terms of the election we're going to have on Saturday. Thank you once again. That's Femi Johnson, reaching us all the way from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and as we said earlier, that we're going to be talking to our correspondents from different parts of the country. And at this point, we are going to Lagos, where we have Jennifer Igwe, who's going to be talking to us about the situation in Lagos. Jennifer, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kieran. In Lagos is one place where election is big deal, especially because they have two popular political parties that are rivals. And most times in the campaign process, you see that rivalry come out, and sometimes you see the state divided into a particular region wanting to vote for a particular party and another part of the state wanting to vote for a particular party. But what we've seen over the years, which played out also at the presidential elections, is that sometimes some form of intimidation comes into play. And there are certain groups who sometimes complain about being intimidated to vote for particular parties. But this time around, because of the massive education by INEC and the National Orientation Agency, including several civil society organizations, on why people should make their vote count and not be intimidated and follow their hearts and do what is right, follow who they really want to vote for. People came out en masse in certain part of the state to vote. And we had a situation where in one of the neighborhoods, someone came and carried the ballot box away, and that caused a kind of fracas, and someone was almost killed. But for these gubernatorial elections, the police has emphasized the need for people not to take laws into their hands, and they have also reinforced their personnel so that there won't be violence in any parts of the state, like what we had during the presidential elections. And there's also a lot of education by the National Orientation Agency so that they won't have large number of void votes, and like what happened at the last elections, because some people, despite all the education so far, still didn't know the appropriate way to vote. And in Lagos, where we have over 6 million voters, I mean, so you can imagine with 45 candidates vying for the governorship, there is need to create that awareness and also to encourage people to come out to vote in spite of what happened in some areas. Because like in Okota, for instance, I know some people that I have spoken to one-on-one who have said they won't even show up to vote because of what happened the other time. And someone actually told me that it was the same thing that played back in 2015, that they were on the queue after voting, standing on the queue to vote for a very long time. At the tail end of the vote, somebody came and carried the ballot box. And that was why this time around, when someone came again to do the same thing, they were ready, and so they had to stop the person. So, but with the way the police have prepared, I don't think we'll have an incident where that kind of violence would happen. And one thing we also saw that happened during the presidential elections, which the police have warned sternly that they would not take lightly, is how the social media almost complicated the situation. Because while the situation was happening in Okota, there were people who were already sending fake news that the man was killed, and the reprisal attacks were already happening in some parts of the state and created tension. And it wasn't even that wasn't even the situation, because even the particular ethnic group that they were accusing of killing the person who snatched the ballot box were even the same people who took the man to the hospital. And so the kind of tension that was created by the social media wasn't even what was on ground. So the police have said that for this election, that they would also be monitoring such activities, and they will not take kindly to people who will create and send false information that will heat up the polity unnecessarily.
All right, Jennifer, how close is the governorship race in Lagos, and what are the issues framing the election?
Although we have 45 candidates vying for the governorship elections, I must say there are two prominent parties, the APC and the PDP, and that's been like that for years. And there are people who say, okay, the APC has been the dominant political party for years now, and it's time for us to try the PDP, a new party and a different candidate. But there are those who say they want continuity for what the governors in the APC have been doing. So that's kind of what is playing out in Lagos. So you have divisions, and you have different groups. You have small talks in different parks, in different quarters where people gather, and a lot of analysis. Some people have become overnight political analysts. You know, you always, if you go to a small gathering, these are the kind of issues they gather in small quarters to talk about. Why, what will change in the election, if it's going to be different, if it won't be. So that is how it is in Lagos. It's mainly between the two dominant political parties, APC and PDP.
All right, Jennifer, thank you very much indeed for that analysis. Well, Lagos is a complex city, and we shall be looking forward to the results of the election after Saturday. It's going to be very interesting. Thank you very much indeed for reaching us all the way from Lagos. Now, back to Abuja here. We still have two guests here, Cynthia Mbamalo, an election observer and director watching the vote, which is a civil society organization. And, of course, Dr. Ereke, who is a lecturer at the Department of Political Science at University of Abuja. Gentleman and lady, let's begin. As a matter of fact, there's no question now. I want Cynthia to begin. You listen to Femi from Oyo State, and of course Jennifer from Lagos. So what have you really, what can you deduce from what I've told us?
Well, I think Saturday would be an interesting election, actually. So just looking at the number of candidates, a state like Imo, for instance, has the highest with 71 parties vying for the governorship position. A total of 1,066 candidates for the governorship across the 29 states that would be having governorship elections, not to mention the state assembly elections where we have much more number of candidates contesting. So it's going to be quite interesting for different reasons. One, we're just coming out of a presidential elections, which is quite still controversial because you still have in the news, you saw the PDP protesting going to INEC. You also have different attempts to get both parties to meet and have a consensus or an agreement, some sort of partnership. But beyond that, there are different things to look out for. One, what were the challenges from the presidential elections? What was voter turnout? Because when we're talking about, when people say there was massive turnout for the presidential election in some states, I'm wondering, well, the total turnout based on INEC's figure is about 35.6%, and with the PVT statistic, we had put it between 37.5%, so still below 40%. And some states like Lagos did not even have up to 20% turnout of voters. Even states like the North, where you think usually they have high turnout, they were barely 48% turnout. So you'd see the decrease in turnout of voters, and I'm wondering if that would be playing out for the elections on Saturday. Then the role the security played also, the whole idea of what is the limit. One, the role of the police and as a coordinating agency for security, the role of the military on elections, and then you also look at, there were several issues that came up, issues of rejected ballots, cancellation of ballots, because lots of issues were raised on that, and then disruption of the process and how voters felt with respect to that. But I think what was very important, what Jennifer said from Lagos, was the issue on fake news, how the social media also triggered incidents that should have been controlled if there was no spread of fake news. But I think Oyo brings a very interesting, if you listen to the analysis in Oyo, the Oyo people are very peculiar. And I think it's also same for some states in the southwest. When you look at states like Ekiti, when you did the analysis for the Ekiti elections, and you see sometimes the Ekiti people, when they make up their mind, they've made up their mind. You hardly see the same party repeat, come and win elections successively. So you have some peculiar states like that. But I think if we're looking for the elections on Saturday, states like Rivers will be one of the states I'll be looking out for. Not because Rivers is exceptionally special, but because of the trend that has been set so far when it comes to violence and disruption of process. If you look at the presidential elections, Rivers had the most cancelled ballots, cancelled polling units, where votes did not hold in Rivers State. So you'd be asking questions like, okay, how would that play out, regardless of the political dynamics, the APC, PDP, and the fact that some parties, you know, all the court rulings and all of that we've had in Rivers State. But you also look at states in the southeast that still have major challenge on turnout. The southeastern states still are still the states with the least turnout of voters. So regardless of the number of parties contesting in Imo, I'm wondering, will we have up to 45% turnout for Imo State, regardless of numbers of parties contesting? States like Yobe, that has the least number of parties contesting, 13 parties contesting. They had among the states with among the highest number of turnouts for the presidential, even though it was barely 50 or 48%. But I'm also wondering how would that play out? So I think it's going to be an interesting contest, but there's a lot that would need to be looking out for, especially the role the INEC would play this time around. We had seen how late registration, opening of polls rather, affected the process. We had data had shown that by 10 o'clock, only 41% of polling units had opened across board, with polling units in the south and southeast having the least percentage of opening of polls, until by 11:30, where you had more polls opening, with polls in polling units at southwestern states having polling units open. But you had voting that extended to past 4 p.m. and some happened on Sunday, that's the following day. So the role the Electoral Commission will play in that would also be interesting to look out for on Saturday.
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia. Let's bring in now Dr. Ernest Oreke. Dr. Oreke, let's have your insights, into what to watch out for on Saturday and what to avoid.
Okay, I think it will be as interesting as Cynthia has, mentioned. But then I think it is equally good that this election is coming after the presidential and National Assembly elections, because INEC must have learned some lessons from the hitches and even the good things that went into the 23rd presidential and National Assembly elections. And so we expect that INEC should perform better on Saturday in conducting the governorship, the Houses of Assembly elections, and the area council elections across the country. And so in terms of deploying materials for the elections, we expect that INEC would learn lessons from, the lateness in some areas, as we witnessed on the 23rd. And we also expect that security will also be better this time around, because the security agencies must have learned lessons from what happened, on the 23rd. And so we expect them to, devise means and strategies of curbing some of those issues, particularly in areas where people felt that they were intimidated or harassed or, prevented from voting. But importantly, I'm also concerned that we may likely have a lower voters' turnout this time, especially because, as Cynthia mentioned, the People's Democratic Party has refused, to accept the outcome of the, the last elections. So it is possible that some of their supporters may likely be discouraged, from, going ahead to participate in Saturday's elections. So as far as voters' turnout is concerned, already before 23rd, we discussed here that we are having a progressive decline of voters' turnout in our elections. And we said the least we had was in 2015, But 2019 is also looking like it will be, the least in our 20-year history of democracy, where we're already having 35 percent voter turnout. And so as a result of the controversy, as a result of the refusal of the People's Democratic Party to accept, the outcome of the presidential election, I feel that it is most likely going to dissuade, their own supporters from, trooping out en masse to vote in Saturday's election. So I'm also expecting, lower voters turnout on Saturday.
This is in spite of the fact that politics is said to be local, and therefore, there will be more domestic, if you like, interest by voters in the various states.
Exactly.
Because they are voting for state house of assembly.
Ordinarily, this should have been one of the most important elections for Nigerians. After this, the most important should be the local government elections. But you discover that in Nigeria, perhaps as a result of the fact that state houses of assemblies have become more like departments in government houses, Nigerians do not take state houses of assembly seriously. I mean, we are talking about a legislative house where you send in bill today, the bill goes through first, second, and third reading the same day. So it's a mockery of democracy at the state houses of at the state level, mockery of democracy, mockery of legislative practices and procedures, because, as we have always said, governors are emperors of democracy in Nigeria. And so most Nigerians do not take the state houses of assembly seriously. Now, you discover that more people are interested in what happens at the National Assembly. People are talking about how much the National Assembly members are receiving. People are talking about how many members of the National Assembly have sponsored bills. People are more interested to know what is happening at the center, unlike what is happening within their local areas. And like we always say, local governments or state governments, for instance, are the closest governments that the people see. It is the government that the people can feel and the people can touch, because the center is far away from the people. But, as a result of the mockery, as a result of the fact that governors and state houses of assembly have made a mockery of democracy, people are not really interested in what happens there.
Thank you indeed. And if what Femi told us from Ibadan is anything to go by, the politics is local, and we'll be expecting more people to come out, because at the level of governorship and houses of assembly, as you rightly pointed out, they are closer to the people. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA network service. What we informed you earlier on, that we're going to be talking to our correspondents from different parts of the country who will do that. But for now, let's take a short break. When we return, the program will continue.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're going over now to our Benin Network Center, where we have our correspondent, Austin Edemodu, who, of course, reports for the NTA from Asaba. He's had to make the hour-and-a-half journey from Asaba, the Delta State capital, to join us from Benin. Austin, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thanks for having me, Kingsley.
We know that there are no governorship elections in Edo State on Saturday. They have only state house of assembly elections. But in Delta, you have a number of political heavyweights who are slugging it out on Saturday. What are the numbers, and what are the issues, and what is the outlook?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Of course, you know that Delta has a complex political terrain in terms of politics. And it didn't start today. And of course, with a population of estimated 5 million people, you see that the natural endowment in Delta State, talking about the natural resources, the oil, has endeared political gladiators to this particular state, both at the national and the state level. So there's no gain saying that it's always a battleground when it comes to politics in Delta State. And considering the fact that we have many ethnic groups also that are in contending factors in this regard. Yes, from 1999, you discover that there's one political party that has continued to dominate the political terrain in Delta State. That is the ruling People's Democratic Party. and this has come to stay. There is this belief or a form of political calculations in that respect that the PDP its data state is mainly for PDP, and for that reason, it wants to maintain that status quo that no other party will have to take away anything from them in terms of election. And that has come to play over the past 16 years. Yes, we have the opposition, the other governorship aspirant, Great Oboru, who has been a perennial governorship aspirant over the years and candidate of different political parties, now the All Progressives Congress. He has contested many elections, and he has not been able to win at that point in time. And this time around, he's showing a lot of enthusiasm, and he's been emboldened by the support at the federal level. Of course, just yesterday, the VP was in Delta State to have a town hall meeting with critical stakeholders on how best to ensure that they have their footings when it comes to politics in Delta State. And from what is playing on, there is this spirit of optimism and spirit. The spirits are high on both sides. Why the PDP, judging from what the governor has done, Governor Kowa, over the years, in the past 3 years, has done a lot of infrastructural development in Delta State, and they are beating their chest with the achievements so far made on his own part, that definitely he is going to come back, and he has the confidence that the people of Delta State are behind him, considering the fact that he has been doing very well in terms of infrastructural development. On the part of the APC, where they have not been in power, the opposition has never been in power, like I said, since the beginning of democracy in Delta State. So, but they are banking on the fact that the people of Delta State, in some quarters, are tired of one party, that definitely they are trying to latch on that narratives that there is need for a change of government in Delta State. And that has been the political calculations going on both sides. Yes, coming into these elections this Saturday, we know that it's going to be an epic task on both sides. And there are already campaigns of calumnies going on both sides. The PDP accusing the APC of trying to rig the election, while the APC on the other side trying to also say that the PDP wants to rig the election. So these are some of the issues that have been coming up while both parties have been campaigning vigorously to win the minds of Delta State. Yes, talking about the number of aspirants, here we have about 50 political parties with up to 50 governorship candidates, but notably the two major political parties that I mentioned, we have 2.847 million registered voters in Delta State, and 2.478 of them collected their PVCs, and 376 are yet to collect their PVCs. And INEC is saying that they are fully prepared in all regards to ensure that the lapses that were witnessed in the last election, talking about the Presidential and National Assembly elections, are properly taken care of, especially in the area of distribution of materials. We witnessed in most cases that materials did not arrive some polling units at the exact time it was supposed to be. Elections started in most polling units at about 10 to 11 late in the day, and it didn't all go well. And again, another issue that of concern is the distribution, the manner in which logistics were being taken care of. You can imagine a situation whereby some people had to help out using their personal vehicles to convey electoral materials to different police centers. It's an aberration in the system, and this has to be taken care of by INEC. And again, the welfare of the actual staff and the humanizing treatment meted out to some of the actual staff and the NYC member during the postponed election was nothing to write home about. I do hope that INEC, in this regard, will have to live up to their expectations to ensure that things are properly put in place. Yes, talking about the area of security, yes, sometimes security agents are very overzealous. We have some cases whereby there were so many military checkpoints, and in most cases, the security agencies are working at cross purposes. You see a situation whereby the soldiers on one part will be having some issues with the police. I remember a situation whereby a police convoy conveying, escorting election materials with other staff. After the other staff with the materials must have passed, the soldiers had to, flag down the policemen carrying out, escorting those people. And there were altercations, exchange of words. And the soldiers said, no, we are taking order from the above that you are not allowed to go into that area. So there should be a synergy between the security agents in terms of how, they carry out their duties. Now, coming to us, my person, we had a terrible experience in one of the polling units that I covered, where we were molested, we were beaten. My cameraman was molested by thugs, and this is a great concern. We narrowly escaped death on that particular day. And to my greatest surprise, there was no presence of security men in that polling unit, and it is a serious concern. I see no reason why in some polling units you have less presence of security men, and in most instances you see these security agents, flocking around politicians in a manner that is questionable. So I see a situation whereby all the polling units we have a reasonable number of security agents that are going to man those areas, and also, those auxiliary security agents should be cautioned in most cases because they are taking things out of context, and they are trying to intimidate most of the voters and also other people that are within the process of the election. So for me, it has been a worthwhile experience covering the election, and from all perspectives in Delta State, it's upbeat. Everybody is apprehensive, everybody is anxious, hoping that this Saturday is going to be a very big one, and it's going to be a historic one, because on both sides, talking about the political parties now, they are very much optimistic of carrying the day.
Thank you very much indeed. Some interesting revelations there that they have made, especially with respect to security. When people like you and others were manhandled as a polling unit is unacceptable. And knowing Delta State, historically speaking, is usually one of the flashpoints when it comes to elections. And as Kingsley pointed out earlier on, he talked about the big weights, in Delta State. And these big weights, they exert a lot of influence from their people, within their localities. Oboru, you mentioned, of course, you said he has been a perennial contestant on the governorship platform and has not been able to get it. And this time around, everybody is working towards getting it. Now, let's talk about thuggery in the area, which of course affected you adversely. Please, you have to be very brief here. Now, what are the security agencies saying with respect to Saturday's election? Of course, you've told us that there was no interagency cooperation in the last election. So what are they saying now with respect to this week's election? Very briefly, please.
Yes, of course, the police commissioner has come out to say that the command is fully prepared in all ramifications to ensure safety of life and property of people of Delta State, and we are taking them by their ways, hoping that this Saturday definitely will not witness, we are not going to witness a repeat of what happened during the presidential and national assembly election. So there is that spirit of, we want to take them by their ways, that hopefully the security architecture will be highly rejigged to ensure that we have a hitch-free election come this Saturday.
All right, Austin Ademodu, NTA correspondent in Asaba, joining us from our Benin Network studios. We'd like to thank you for your time, and Johnny Mess back to your base. All right, but let's go over now to our Kaduna Network Center. Kirian, at the beginning, did say we were expecting a guest to join us. David Akoji is of the National Orientation Agency. You can see him there on the right side of your split screen. Mr. Akoji, well, of course, we kept you waiting. You've been listening to the reports from our correspondents as well as the two analysts that we have with us in the studios here in Abuja. Now, ahead of Saturday's election, what is it that Noah has been up to with regard to one, seeking to reassure voters of their safety and security on account of some of the ugly incidents that occurred on the 23rd of February. And also having to deal with the magnitude of spoiled ballots.
Good morning, Kingsley. You did hear your correspondent from Lagos refer to some of the aspects of the work that we're already doing on the field in Lagos. It's happening in all the other states of the Federation. Now, with regards to the anxiety concerning possible low voter turnout in the governorship election, I've heard discussions going on in the studio expressing this anxiety. I want to say that we would not have the complete picture if we do not cast that low voter turnout that was witnessed in the presidential and National Assembly election against the backdrop of the postponement of that election. The election was postponed, but before then, the outcome of the mobilization nationwide that National Orientation Agency had done, and we did witness non-governmental organizations, citizens groups, religious bodies also doing mobilization of voters in the build-up to that election. Most of our capital cities became empty. People traveled to their various states where they had registered for the purpose of voting. The cancellation became a problem, for a huge number of prospective voters, owing to the fact that in spite of a lot of mobilization that we did, in spite of the encouragement that the federal government did also in terms of paying school fees, interfacing with transport organizations to ensure that transport costs came down to enable people to travel again to their various locations, quite a number of people did not go back. The state election, as has been rightly observed in the discussions that has been ongoing since this program started, the state is closer to the people. The people are passionate, as you heard from your correspondent in Oyo, about the goings on. People have opinions, and people want to see different shades of changes going on in various states across the Federation. So we are positive, even as our people have gone back to the field again to continue to work to mobilize Nigerians to come out, and vote in the state governorship elections. Concerning the challenge of voided votes, we had anticipated this problem because of the huge number of political parties that are present in the ballot paper, never before witnessed in the history of this country at this time. The ballot paper is very long, and so you find all kinds of symbols, some of them approximating to each other and creating this confusion, especially in the rural areas, which is leading to this very huge quantum of voided votes that we are seeing. We have sustained our sensitization in the local governments and in the states across the Federation. We have produced mock ballot, specimen ballot papers that was given to us by INEC, very large ones looking like posters and all of that. And then we are taking this to various communities and sensitizing the people in an attempt to get them to understand the difference, between these symbols and to know exactly how to vote in order to ensure that their votes do not become voided. Only yesterday, we did a national dialogue on the challenge of vote buying in Abuja. And we brought together stakeholders and resource persons from civil society and several other organizations to add value to the current solutions that we're deploying on the field. And we did harvest quite a number of opinions from the people who were there, and which we are passing through our messaging channels to our states and local governments to also include in their messaging, on this challenge of vote buying.
All right, we appreciate your comments, David Akoji of the National Orientation Agency, reaching us from Kaduna. Thank you. If you have time, I'll definitely return to you. And now it's time for us to go to our correspondent in Sokoto, Abdurrahman Jibrila. Abdurrahman Jibrila, good morning and welcome to the program. I hope you can hear me clearly. And if you do, let me go straight to ask you to let us know what the atmosphere is like in Sokoto and the environs with respect to the governorship and the House of Assembly elections coming up on Saturday. What is in the air in Sokoto?
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our listen
Good morning, Kirian. Sokoto is the atmosphere is friendly, and the political parties are gearing up towards the Saturday's governorship and state assembly elections. Sokoto, the seat of the caliphate, has close to 1.9 registered voters, and so far, according to INEC office in Sokoto, 1.7 permanent voters cards have been collected, and though the turnout of voters in the presidential and national assembly elections, close to 900,000 people came out to vote during the elections. And so far in Sokoto, we have 3,035 polling units with 244 wards, and in the 23 local government areas of the state. And the Independent National Electoral Commission in Sokoto says it is ready to conduct the Saturday's governorship and state assembly elections, as the non-sensitive materials have been distributed to the 23 local government areas of the state. And this evening, today, this Wednesday, the sensitive materials will start going to the 23 local government areas of the state. And the challenges encountered in the last governorship, presidential and national assembly elections, the INEC, especially late arrival of materials. The INEC head of voter education and publicity, Muhammad Musa Sokoto, said they have put everything in place to ensure that elections in nooks and crannies of Sokoto State starts on time and without any delay in the start of the election. And the two major political parties, the APC and PDP, campaigning around the clock to ensure victory in the upcoming general elections. And we have 51 candidates vying for the seat of the governorship, 2 females, then 49 males. And the State House of Assembly elections, Sokoto State has 30 constituencies. Out of these 30 constituencies, we have 462 candidates vying for these 30 seats. Among the 462, 21 of them are females. And from the looks of things, everything is set, and people are ready and eager to go to the polls on Saturday.
Abdul Rahman, thank you very much for the very little time that we have left. Tell us something again about the number of contestants for the governorship election. And is this a one-way traffic or a two-horse race? And if so, who are those that are the frontline contenders, and what are the issues driving them?
In Sokoto, the two main contenders are the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Ahmad Aliu Sokoto, who was the deputy governor to the PDP contestant, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Amin Waziri Tambwal. He was his deputy from May 29, 2015, up to October 2018, when he resigned after the defection of Tambwal to the PDP in August last year. And these are the two main contenders of the Sokoto governorship election. And from the look of things, we cannot predict who will be victorious in the upcoming election, because they are all out campaigning, and the atmosphere, the security atmosphere is quite conducive for the campaigns they are doing around the state. And though there are some little security threats, but the security agencies in Sokoto, especially yesterday, we were at the Sokoto State Police Command, and we spoke with the police public relations officer in Sokoto, Muhammad Sadiq Abubakar, where he said they are aware of all the security threats in Sokoto and with regards to the governorship election because the politicians are out making some noises, but he said the police and other security agencies are ready to tackle and ensure hitch-free elections in Sokoto State.
All right, thank you, Abdul Rahman Jabila from Sokoto. Thank you. Sokoto is a relatively peaceful state when it comes to elections, so we're hoping to have a good run there. Now, back to the studio, I'd like Cynthia to speak to this issue of security, because the story from Austin Adomodu is very pathetic. You know, people who went to work, all of a sudden, people trampled on them, manhandled them, and all of that. Now, from your experience in the last election, what are the areas you would like security operatives to really raise, you know, their game? Because the security concerns here are very enormous.
Yeah, I think this is very important, because if you also look at polling units where voting was disrupted, you would also realize that if we had adequate security, that wouldn't happen. And I think it begins, one, with the deployment of security. And when I say deployment now, it's not just about the number of personnel deployed, but actually how targeted is the deployment and intentional. Now, before elections, security, they do their mapping, they do their hotspot, they identify all of that. There are civil society groups that also do security threat assessment. But I think what is usually lacking is the security tapping into the reports of civil society organizations that work on security for a longer period of time, just observing trends and threats across board. So for this election, what we're expecting from security is with deployment that you have personnel deployed across board to ensure that you reduce the tendency of disruption of the process, and security deployed to actually secure property and personnel, that is voters, citizens, and personnel as you'd have it. The other was coordination, and that you'd see between one, the police and the paramilitary that's all usually man the polling units, and then the soldiers and the military who usually should be away from the polling because they are usually armed. Armed personnel are not meant to be at the polling unit. And I think there's a lot of question when it comes to one, neutrality and impartiality, because if deployment it's not in such a way to secure lives, but actually deployed to defavor or disfavor any side, as the case may be at different states, then it becomes questionable. And then there is lack of coordination between the soldiers and the police with the paramilitary agencies that also work on election security, and that becomes a challenge. And once we look forward for Saturday elections is that one, we have adequate security provided. It doesn't make sense that thugs come and cut away with materials, because you have soldiers supposed to be supposedly at the streets, at checkpoints. So at what point do you look away that such an incident happens? And then also the police deployed. The fact you are not armed doesn't mean you don't have other trainings, because there are special trainings on how to disarm even armed threats at polling units, but we don't see that being deployed, and that becomes a bit questionable. So sufficient deployment in such a way that you actually secure people, and then also that there is coordination. I think one of the things that was lacking was coordination, and that we don't want to see partiality or some sense of partisanship actually at the state elections where you have different dynamics at different states.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Ernest Oreke is still on security. Collation centers have become, in a sense, soft targets for disruption. What would you like to see in terms of security in and around those locations?
Well, as we said earlier, and just as Cynthia rightly mentioned, we expect that there should be better interagency collaboration as we conduct Saturday's elections. You know, of course, the police leads as far as election security is concerned, but equally there are other security agencies, and so I expect better, interagency collaboration, especially because we have had 23rd election, and like I said earlier, there are lessons learned from the 23rd. And I expect that the security agencies should draw from those lessons and beef up security around those areas that are usually targeted during elections, especially the collation centers. However, again, it is equally important to mention, just as Cynthia said, that security agencies must see their role as not to protect a particular political party or to protect the regime, but to protect the process, to ensure that the process is smooth and free for every participant in the election.
All right, Kieran, I think that's very well stated. You know, we'd like to thank our two guests, of course, who've listened to our correspondents as well as our guests in Kaduna. From Kaduna Network Center, we're joined by David Akoji. He's of the National Orientation Agency. Mr. Akoji, thank you very much for your contribution to our discussion this morning. All right, and right here with us in the Abuja studios, appreciation to Cynthia Mbamalo, who is an election observer and as well as director watching the vote, a civil society organization. Cynthia, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
And also our appreciation to Dr. Ernest Ereke of the Political Science Department, University of Abuja. Ereke, thank you for being with us always on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'd like to appreciate, first of all, those who sent in their tweets. We're unable to take them. We hope that probably we'll be able to carry them over to tomorrow and read some of the tweets. Mogbolahon has his tweet, Dele Jack Solomon, Olowo Kere Olajide.
Mohammed Mustafa.
That's right. Loa Fassi. Osman Bani Kantu.
Dele Jack Solomon.
Absolutely.
Law Alpha C.
All right. So we'd like to thank you for sending in your tweets always, using our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. That does it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, we'll have a nice day. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kieran Umayo. Thank you for being part of our show today. Please return again tomorrow. We'll bring you a fresh edition of Good Morning Nigeria.